Well, Putin's showed incredible restraint so far, hasn't he?
He has, because he's a very clever man, and he has to. You have to remember that our national sport in England, unfortunately, is football. Do you know what it is in Russia? What's the national sport, Alex?
I forget.
It's chess.
That's right.
It's chess. It's chess. Yeah, and he has to play that game because BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. I can think of $90 trillion of reasons why they want us to get into a war with Russia and get access to those resources.
All right, now I'm going to play this video by Stephen Eugene Kuhn, who I really want to get on the show because I've seen a lot of his videos the last 3 or 4 years. He really knows what he's talking about. And I just realized today I've never told my producers, get him on. Get him on yesterday, please. And everything he says is 100% dead on. In fact, I can take every 30 seconds of what he says and just show you clips and proof and documents. And I know most of you are super informed. You'll go, yeah, we already know this. And I already know this, and I've already said everything he says here, but in bigger, more long-winded ways as I do. But he nails it. And so when we're talking about this Ukraine war, you'll notice it dovetails with what that amazing MP from the UK said last hour, who knows his stuff. We think of wars that somebody's trying to conquer somebody, and that's always been the old reason for it. But we learned from the Pentagon Papers and Daniel Ellsberg, who I was blessed to interview many times, that he's in there as a CIA analyst at the Pentagon, and he's reading McNamara and documents to Westmoreland from years and years before where they go, we're not going to win this war. By the way, we're not trying to win the war. It's a war game and a way to make money and build up the military-industrial complex and for domestic control here at home. Because they could have won it very quickly. It's called carpet bombing and invading the North. But they wanted the war to continue. We were really in the war in 60, took over from the French, Indochina, officially got into it after the Gulf of Tonkin stage event, 64. And remember, we were hanging off helicopter skids in 75 because by then, the North Vietnamese had infiltrated so much that even if Nixon would have tried to beat them, they wouldn't have been able to. And obviously Nixon was then out with all of that unfolding. And so when you look at Ukraine, what Victoria Nuland has said and what George Soros has bragged about on CNN, starting in 91, they made a deal to not expand westward towards Russia. And then the Clintons in the 90s attacked Belgrade and let the Muslims take part of southern Serbia and Kosovo and all the rest of it out of Albania. And so the Russians start paying attention then. Then they see us moving missiles up and weapons around them. NATO overthrowing countries and canceling elections. And Putin said, my red line is Ukraine. Since 2014, he invades, takes Crimea, and he says, you come any closer, I'm going to come in and knock all your forces out in a special military action. And now he says, get your ambassadors and everybody out. I'm getting ready to start flattening the cities, and now you start seeing it begin. But he's just slowly escalating. But they have said that the real money they're going to make is the reconstruction of Ukraine. And what Ukraine was like 60 million people 10 years ago, and now what's Ukraine, 36 million? People are fleeing there, and now they're bringing in Africans and Arabs and stuff to replace them, but they don't get conscripted in the military. They don't have to take all the COVID shots like they try to make citizens do. Same thing here. UN said, oh, don't give the migrant shots here or in Europe, anywhere. We don't want to hurt them because they're brought in as clients of the UN. They're brought in as the new foot soldiers. And so it's about replacement migration, too. And it's about making money during the overthrow, during the war, and then after the war with the breakup of the country. And Poland's already been told they're going to get part of Ukraine. Other pieces will go to other bordering nations. They'll go ahead and make a deal. Russia did this behind the scenes, but in NATO documents, they say, and then we'll go ahead and give Russia part of it. Now, that's one plan. If Russia folds, then even better. But it is literally fighting to the last dead Ukrainian and Russian, and it's all premeditated. And it's all about a Marshall Plan. I said, watch, 4 years ago, I said, they'll start calling for a Marshall Plan for Ukraine. 2 months later, we need a Marshall Plan for Ukraine. That means all of your tax money, even more than the war funding. And it goes into the black hole of a war zone so they can steal most of it, which has all been done. And so this is a crossroads between Eastern Europe and Russia, and they want control of that breadbasket, all the minerals, all the oil, all the gas. This is purely predatory. And this fella, Stephen Eugene Kuhn, does an excellent job breaking it down. Here he is.
I don't think Ukraine exists anymore. They just haven't told the Ukrainians yet. Mark my words. And you might want to screenshot this, because what I'm about to say isn't a theory in my mind. This is happening right now in real time. And one day everyone's going to look back and go, how did we not see that? I really don't want to do this video, but I have to. I also know this is going to be tough for a lot of you. So stay with me all the way to the end, and maybe you'll see it too. As you may know, my wife is Ukrainian. Her family goes back generations in Ukraine. Real people, real roots, real history, and that fertile soil. And when we brought them here to safety, they thought they were escaping the war. What they didn't know is that the war came specifically to make them leave. They weren't casualties of the conflict. They were obstacles to it. Think about it for a second. If you wanted to take over a country, the land, the resources, the entire future of a place, but you couldn't just walk in and take it, what would you do? You'd fund tension. You'd arm people. You'd push until something ignites. And when it does, when the bombs are falling and the cameras are rolling, you don't send your guys in. You send their guys in. You make it their war. You make it about their honor. You stand at a podium 10 countries away and say, Slava Ukraini, to get the world behind you. And the love the Ukrainians have for their homeland, that becomes a weapon. Here's the deal in all this. They never wanted to win this war in the first place, because if they wanted to, they would have ended it. Peace was on the table early on. It got walked away from, because the arming of those troops is a money machine, as you know. The destruction is a money machine, and the rebuilding contracts are already written. Money on the way down, money on the way back up. Real human beings treated as completely expendable. And for this to work, Ukraine couldn't just be weakened. It had to be emptied. The people had to go. The culture had to go. Because you can't move in and rebuild a place the way that you want to if the people who build it over centuries are still standing there. You know, parts of Ukraine right now are completely uninhabited, like ghost towns, villages where families lived for generations, empty and silent. And the men, they're dying in trenches while British, French, and German leaders go on television and say, we must fight to the last Ukrainian. And to everyone out there defending this out of ideology, every time you shut this conversation down, you're extending the war, the pain, suffering, robbery, and fraud. You're not defending Ukraine. You're defending the people who are erasing it. And here's the part that kept me up at night. The biggest enemy of Ukraine isn't even the corporations pulling the strings from boardrooms in London, Brussels, and Washington. You know who it is? It's people like Zelensky, who know exactly what's going on, who are still watching their own country get hollowed out in real time, and they're profiting from it handsomely, while their own people die in the mud. That's a man who chooses a side, and it wasn't Ukraine's. These are real people that we're talking about here, with centuries of history in that rich, fertile Ukrainian soil that everyone apparently wanted so badly. And they're almost gone, erased, not by an enemy that hated them, but by people who smiled at them, funded them, put them on a world stage and called them heroes, and then used every last drop of their love for their homeland to get exactly what serves them. I don't think anyone can stop it anymore. I think it's already done. And the saddest part, most Ukrainians still don't even see it. I gotta tell you, what's happening in Europe and many other places is the prelude to what's coming to America if we don't start taking America back. Go to jointab.us, read about what we're doing, about taking local governments back so this doesn't happen in our country. jointab.us.